And who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election.
AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life.
Bill Maher recently had former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on his show, and things got heated fast. But the real moment came when the talk shifted to AOC and the growing buzz about possible 2028 run. Maher didn't just laugh off McCarthy's idea of AOC leading the ticket, he shut it down completely, then broke it apart piece by piece. Calm, direct, and sharp, he laid out why he thinks Democrats could be heading straight into trouble in 2028. We've got all the biggest moments from that exchange lined up. So before we jump in, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's get started.
They gamed the system. They changed it.
And who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election. Trump won, okay? And I don't know if that's going to transfer. We should have won 4 more seats in the Senate. If you looked at the last 70 races for the Senate, 69 follow exactly the way.
I think it's Moore versus Youngkin. That's where I see it.
Youngkin would be.
Youngkin is going to go back to adjacent, and then Vance and Jr. will fight it out for that crowd.
But AOC and Bernie, and who's at the top of the ticket?
They're going to lead right now.
Who's at the top of that ticket, Kevin? Because if it's not Bernie, he's going to be vice president and then wait his turn?
No, it would be.
It's almost like Bill Maher visibly reacts at the thought of AOC leading Democrats into 2028. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. But her name keeps popping up everywhere. Don Lemon is talking her up, Kevin McCarthy seems strangely interested, and more big names in the Democratic Party are starting to treat her like their best shot. It feels like the party might be leaning more on popularity and buzz than actual readiness. Even the comments section blew up, with people calling out Maher for going after the Bernie-AOC dream team, which for some still feels like the perfect pairing. But this isn't just about AOC. It points to something bigger. The Democratic Party seems caught in the middle, torn between pushing further into progressive ideas or pulling back before it risks another tough loss. And Maher isn't holding back, especially as the pushback around all of this keeps getting louder.
Bernie's been running each time. I'm just saying who's in the lead right now. I don't think that's how it ends up.
But big crowds don't necessarily mean who's the right candidate. When I started
but it drives where the ideas are going to go. It's going to drive the money for a while.
It doesn't make them the winner.
It doesn't make them the winner. You'll have to wait till you'll get 2 years out, and then you'll start seeing these governors that start showing solutions. You also have to know, what is the issue going to be? Are we going to have a foreign policy issue? Are we going to have an economic issue? And who's been the best in leading in that? But right now for the Democrats, who's going to lead for the next 2 years, the money is going to... AOC outraised everybody in the House.
And it's all small donors.
It's all small donors.
Yeah.
And this is exactly where Trump was when no one gave him a chance at 17. He outraised everybody else. So that's where the base is at, right?
And there it is, the heart of the problem. Elections aren't just popularity contests where the loudest cheers or the biggest spending guarantee a win. The 2024 race is a clear cautionary tale. Kamala Harris checked all the boxes, raised massive funding, had celebrities backing her like a major festival, and drew huge crowds, yet still faced a tough and decisive loss. That's exactly the point Maher is driving home. The left can get too focused on image over substance, mistaking noise for a clear message and spectacle for real strategy. And then there's the contrast with Trump. No matter how people feel about him, he didn't just attract attention. He pushed a message that connected with his base, something that felt direct and personal, rather than overly scripted. Meanwhile, Harris often came across as being everywhere, yet not fully connecting in a lasting way. And that contrast is a big part of what's fueling this entire debate.
We do know what AOC will not be doing, and that's running for the top spot on the Oversight Committee, if you can put a D0 here. She says Jerry Connolly stepped aside, who had beat her in the race for ranking Dem on Oversight, and she says she's not running this time. She says, quote, "It's actually clear to me that the underlying dynamics in the caucus have not shifted with respect to seniority as much as I think would be necessary, and so I believe I'll be staying put at Energy and Commerce," unquote. Because if she would be ranking member, then she couldn't serve on Energy and Commerce Committee.
If you cut through all the noise, here's what's really going on. AOC isn't chasing the top spot on the Oversight Committee, and it's not hard to understand why. The Democratic Party still runs heavily on seniority, which puts her at a disadvantage right out of the gate. She already learned that lesson last year when she lost out to 75-year-old Jerry Cumley. But here's the bigger factor. Going after that role would mean giving up her position on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and that's not something she's eager to do. It's a key spot that gives her real influence on major issues like climate policy and corporate regulation. Exactly the kind of platform you keep if you're thinking long-term, possibly even about a presidential run. And let's be real, AOC is always balancing visibility with strategy. The Oversight Committee might bring more TV moments and viral clips, but Energy and Commerce offers actual policy power. Walking away from that just for more headline battles wouldn't make much sense if you're playing the long game. Still, critics like Bill Maher and Greg Gutfeld aren't convinced she's the Democrats' next big star. And that's where this conversation really heats up.
AOC finally responded proudly concerning a high school yearbook photo that proves she grew up in a wealthy suburb. She said, "See, I told you I went to high school."
And I can tell you, I know that when I was waitressing and struggling to put food on the table, for a while there, I did. I tried to stop caring. I tried to just keep my head down, work my shifts, and accept that this is just how things are. But that is no way to live, Arizona. It's no way to live.
So here's something that's been making the rounds. AOC's full name isn't just AOC. It's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and some recent discussions about her past have brought up a few questions. According to those claims, the public image many people know today doesn't fully match the story she often tells about her upbringing. Some records suggest her background may have been more stable than the tougher narrative she sometimes highlights. And then there's the waitressing job she often points to as part of her working-class story. Let's be fair, plenty of students from all kinds of backgrounds have worked service jobs at some point. It's almost a common rite of passage in the US, not necessarily proof of financial struggle. That doesn't mean she can't speak on economic issues, but it does raise questions for some people about how much of that image is carefully shaped for public appeal.
AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life.
Interestingly, a lot of people have fully bought into that carefully shaped image without really questioning it. To them, she comes across as bold and fearless, someone willing to challenge power and maybe even lead the country one day, largely because of the story built around her personal journey. But critics argue that once you look closer, parts of that story don't hold up the way they're presented. They say her rise has been driven just as much by strong messaging and image building as by any clear, consistent set of principles. Even so, plenty of supporters remain drawn in by her style, her sharp delivery, and high-energy speeches. To them, it feels powerful and inspiring. To others, it can come across as more performance than substance. And that's really where the divide sits. For some, she represents bold leadership. For others, it feels more like carefully crafted political theater than something deeper.
So by now you heard that AOC, among others, were arrested last night. She truly is an American hero. It was brutal, taken out in cuffs. Well, technically, her shirt had cuffs. Maybe French cuffs.
This all came to a head during protests after the Supreme Court's 2022 decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Not surprisingly, AOC and her supporters were strongly opposed, framing it as a major step backward on reproductive rights. And this is exactly the kind of political moment Bill Maher has been warning about, where deep ideological divides take over and leave little room for common ground. Critics argue that figures like AOC and even Kamala Harris lean too heavily into messaging that resonates online but doesn't always connect with a broader base of voters. From that perspective, the concern is that politics starts to feel more about viral moments and slogans than about practical solutions. While the more progressive wing stays energized, many everyday voters can end up feeling disconnected or overwhelmed by the tone and direction of the debate. If that gap keeps growing, some believe it could spell trouble for Democrats heading into 2028, especially if they don't find a way to balance strong ideas with wider appeal.
This nonsense from like AOC that he should be impeached is just absurd. Absurd. There's no... Okay, get back to me when you've read the Constitution or get a law degree, because you sound like an absolute idiot. There is absolutely no ground to impeach the president. He 100% was within his constitutional authority and his congressionally authorized authority to do what he did on Saturday. Okay, but as for whether it's a good idea, that's a debate we should be having. And look, you know, if we could get congressional approval of the specific action, fine, I'm okay with that too. If you want to bring it to Congress, go ahead and see how that goes. I don't think it's necessary, but go for it if you want to.
Beyond her focus on progressive issues, AOC often reacts very strongly whenever Trump comes up, what some commentators have called Trump derangement syndrome. One example frequently discussed is her support for a push to impeach Trump over alleged nuclear strikes in Iran. Supporters argue these actions were meant to deter conflict and protect U.S. interests, not to start a war. From her critics' perspective, this move seems more about headlines and attention than about accountability or principle. They suggest that real issues often take a back seat to political theater. The broader takeaway, according to observers, is that these ongoing clashes highlight the challenges of serious governance. For some, it feels more like spectacle and drama than policy-focused leadership.
Donald Trump is a who was found guilty of 34 felony counts of fraud, liable for... Of course he's lying and abusing and manipulating the stock market too. When he talks about and criminals, he should look in the mirror.
Okay. Clearly saying that Donald Trump is a racist. Sorry. She also thinks he's a racist. He's all the ists. But here, she's in deep trouble because he was not found liable for... And George Stephanopoulos just had to pay ABC some $15 million to President Trump to settle a defamation lawsuit for saying that.
Honestly, this might be the wake-up call AOC desperately needs. A reminder to stick to the facts and think twice before grabbing the mic. Her constant stream of half-baked takes and emotional outbursts may get cheers online, but in the real world, reckless words carry consequences. This isn't just a lesson for her, it's a warning for everyone in politics. Make sure your facts are straight before joining the outrage parade. Some even argue that if Trump took legal action, it wouldn't be about revenge. It would be about holding public figures accountable in a culture where baseless attacks often go unchecked. AOC's theaters, her overblown origin story, and her obsession with Trump don't just hurt her credibility, they raise serious questions about her fitness for leadership. While her approach may energize her base, it does little for the country as a whole. America deserves leaders who prioritize truth over spectacle, and it's past time we demand better. If you like this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe for more.